Here's what we're working on tonight for Newsnight. What the nearly 10,000 letters that Ronald Reagan wrote reveal on a special edition of Newsnight. CNN, 10:30 p.m.
Well, we've been here for the past 3 hours and covering this. And we now turn it over to Aaron Brown, who is in Washington, D.C. Give us a special edition of Newsnight. Aaron, this was, I don't know if you got to watch much of this, but this was quite an evening.
Oh, we saw it all. Thank you. We awoke today in a drizzly day in Washington, which felt oddly perfect for what was in store, and the night ended in a glorious sunset across the Pacific, and that too seemed exactly right. The program tonight is not our usual fare, not in tone or substance, not in length or in structure. For those of you who missed the nation's farewell to the President this morning, we hope you'll stay with us over the next hour or so, and you will see what millions of others watched throughout the day. For those of you who watched so much of it to stay with us, we hope you'll watch it again, seeing some things you missed earlier. There are some still photos to show you, a few friends of Mr. Reagan's to talk to, a song that seemed perfect for the moment to play, a perfect ending of our program. We even eliminated the crawl. So tonight a different Newsnight, but Newsnight still, and it begins at the beginning of a day of long goodbyes.
The nation's first state funeral in more than 3 decades began simply with a gentle kiss. The nation's first state funeral in more than 3 decades.
It's kind of a recap, Russ. The ending was the sunset, and this is kind of a recap deal.
Newsnight, but Newsnight still, and it begins at the beginning of a day of long goodbyes.
The nation's first state funeral in more than 3 decades began simply with a gentle kiss. Jesus Christ, we receive the body of our brother Ronald for burial. Let us pray with confidence to God, the giver of life, that he will raise him to perfection in the company of the saints. Inside the National Cathedral, in front of all of the country's living ex-presidents, and with the world watching, the final chapters of Ronald Reagan's long goodbye began in prayer.
For none of us liveth to himself, and no man dieth to himself. For if we live, we live unto the Lord, and if we die unto the Lord. Whether we live, therefore, or die, we are the Lord. Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord, even so saith the Spirit, for they rest from their labors. Let us pray. O God, whose mercies cannot be numbered, accept our prayers on behalf of thy servant Ronald, and grant him an entrance into the land of light and joy.
Even youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fail. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not feel faint.
They spoke of history changed, words spoken by some who helped change it. Margaret Thatcher, frail now, spoke her words on tape.
He inspired America and its allies with renewed faith in their mission of freedom. Others saw only limits to growth. He transformed a stagnant economy into an engine of opportunity. Others hoped at best for an uneasy cohabitation with the Soviet Union. He won the Cold War, not only without firing a shot, but also by inviting enemies out of their fortress and turning them into friends.
One day, in Brussels, President Mitterrand, in referring to President Reagan, said, "Il a vraiment la notion de l'État." Rough translation, he really has a sense of the state about him. The translation does not fully capture the profundity of the observation. What President Mitterrand meant is that there is a vast difference between the job of president and the role of president.
President Bush the Elder was never better, balancing a nation's sorrow with great good humor. As his vice president for 8 years, I learned more from Ronald Reagan than from anyone I encountered in all my years of public life. I learned kindness. We all did. I also learned courage. The nation did. Who can forget the horrible day in March 1981? He looked at the doctors in the emergency room and said, "I hope you're all Republicans." And then I learned decency. The whole world did. Days after being shot, weak from wounds, he spilled water from the sink. And entering the hospital room, aides saw him on his hands and knees, wiping water from the floor. He worried that his nurse would get in trouble. The good book says humility goes before honor, and our friend had both. And who could not cherish such a man? And perhaps as important as anything, I learned a lot about humor, a lot about laughter. And oh, how President Reagan loved a good story. When asked, "How did your visit go with Bishop Tutu?" he replied, "So-so."
And his son spoke of a nation's loss.
In his last years, he saw through a glass darkly. Now he sees his Savior face to face. And we look to that fine day when we will see him again. All weariness gone, clear of mind, strong and sure, and smiling again.
and the sorrow of this parting gone forever. May God bless Ronald Reagan and the country he loved.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
On any day, Ronan Hyman's Amazing Grace touches your soul. Today it seems to touch something even deeper.
I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
The minister, friend, former Senator John Danforth.
In this service of worship, we celebrate the life of a great president, and we profess the resurrection faith of this church. It is faith in God's victory over darkness. It is faith in the ultimate triumph of light. We believe in this victory every day of our lives. We believe it as individuals. We believe it as a nation. There is no better time to celebrate the triumph of light than in a service for Ronald Reagan.
And then Ronald Wilson Reagan, a child of small-town America, left the city where he made history. Left for his last trip west. He was, as the Air Force band played, going home. In Washington. We'll return in California in a moment.
Upgrade your Father's Day with a complete PC package from Gateway, like our 310 seat. For under $500, you can get Dad everything you need. It's got the power of an Intel Pentium 4 processor, a big screen for surfing the web, and tons of storage for all his guide stuff. And right now, our PCs come with free shipping, so you can plug one in on his big day. So call Gateway today and get Dad.
Commercials coming up.
That was this morning in Washington. We'll return in California in a moment.
Upgrade your Father's Day with a complete PC package from Gateway, like our 310 seat. For under $500, you can get Dad everything you need. It's got the power of an Intel Pentium 4 processor, a big screen for surfing the web, and tons of storage for all his guide stuff. And right now, our PCs come with free shipping, so you can plug one in on his big day. So call Gateway today and get Dad the PC that offers plenty of bang for the buck and get free shipping.
Hey, isn't Jacobson choking?
I definitely think Jacobson's choking.
I know exactly what to do. I've seen in the movies. stand behind the guy and pull hard. The action on the solar plexus.
No, it's right, the solar plexus.
Spells the truth. Just like I told you.
Less talk. Make it happen. The Royal Bank of Scotland Group. CNN Sunday, a special television event. Meet the men who changed history on D-Day.
It's mostly a fight for survival.
Their stories, their words. Paula ZAHN hosts D-Day, A Call to Courage, a CNN special event, Sunday, 7 Eastern. CNN Sunday, one of the great battles of World War II. Ordinary citizens fought the Nazis against overwhelming odds.
I think it was a price worth paying for freedom.
CNN presents Warsaw Rising, Sunday, 8 Eastern.
CNN Monday, hot new hybrid cars. They're the latest fad, but will they really save us from high gas prices? You'll be surprised. Trust American Morning, 7 Eastern.
Public Utility Commission can't forecast summer storms, but we can tell you how to protect you and your family if bad weather causes down power lines. If you see a down power line, don't go near it.
Try to get to a phone and report it to the local authorities and your utility. Keep others away until help arrives.
If a down line lands on or near your car, please stay inside and wait until help arrives. If you have a cell phone, dial 911. As Public Utilities Commissioners, we can't predict when summer storms may strike.
When it comes to power lines down by summer storm,
Please use caution.
When it comes to your financial future, time can be your friend, and procrastination your enemy. It's time. Your financial security is too valuable to trust to just one person. The Pearson, Hosick, Farrell, and Dakey Financial Group combines over 40 years of experience, helping ensure that no matter what your financial planning needs, they have both the experience and the knowledge to help. The Pearson, Hosick, Farrell, and Dakey Financial Group of AGA. It's time.
Network's Waking Nancy Reagan, a classic interview encore. Larry King, CNN 9 Eastern.
At least every culture I know of throughout time has had funerals. They help us make the difficult transition from life to death and beyond. That is no different when they're big, state, formal funerals like the ones we've watched over the last several days. CNN's Candy Crowley was in Simi Valley during the service, and Candy joins us now from there. Good evening. It was moving and perfect in so many different ways, wasn't it?
It really was, and so different from what we saw in Washington. The National Cathedral, as lovely as that was, and as beautiful a man-made structure as that is, it's just nothing for these mountains and the sunset and this perfectly clear night. I wanted to try and give you an idea of a couple things our viewers might not have seen while this was, while the camera was elsewhere. One is, it was so quiet here. I don't think I heard a cough. I don't think I heard a whisper. At one point, I looked at my producer and said, "Do you hear that dove?" I mean, that's how quiet it was. When the camera started to click, it sounded like thunderbolts. I mean, they just really broke the silence. As you may have noticed, the motorcade was very late compared to when it was supposed to be here. It arrived some 45 minutes late, I think, partially because they slowed down so that the crowds that were along the way could get a good look at the hearse and the funeral procession. And what that meant was that...
Nancy Reagan, a classic interview encore. Larry King, CNN 9 Eastern.
At least every culture I know of throughout time has had funerals. They help us make the difficult transition from life to death and beyond. That is no different when they're big, state, formal funerals like the ones we've watched over the last several days. CNN's Candy Crowley was in Simi Valley during the service, and Candy joins us now from there. Good evening. It was moving and perfect in so many different ways, wasn't it?
It really was, and so different from what we saw in Washington. The National Cathedral, as lovely as that was, and as beautiful a man-made structure as that is, it's just nothing for these mountains and the sunset and this perfectly clear night. I wanted to try and give you an idea of a couple things our viewers might not have seen while this was, while the camera was elsewhere. One is, it was so quiet here. I don't think I heard a cough. I don't think I heard a whisper. At one point, I looked at my producer and said, "Do you hear that dove?" I mean, that's how quiet it was. When the camera started to click, it sounded like thunderbolts. I mean, they just really broke the silence. As you may have noticed, the motorcade was very late compared to when it was supposed to be here. It arrived some 45 minutes late, I think, partially because they slowed down so that the crowds that were along the way could get a good look at the hearse and the funeral procession. And what that meant was that here, these people sat and didn't seem to talk to one another, maybe a whisper or so, but very quietly, and up above you kept hearing those F-18s that did the flyby during the funeral itself. Just the lonely F-18s up there. So there were just lots of imagery, beautiful setting. I judge probably precisely what Ronald Reagan had in mind when he said, "I want to be buried right here and I want to be facing west." We had, when the flag draped coffin came and they put it up against those kind of sun-dappled mountains, it was incredible coloring. Hollywood could not have done it any better. It was an amazing night, and I think the most personal of the times we've seen. We heard from the 3 children.
Yeah.
It was very clear at the end when you saw Nancy Reagan with the casket, and she went over to it for the last time. You know, it was hard for her to back away from that. Her children came over and whispered in her ear, or were clearly trying to get her to move back. But that took a little while. This really was the last goodbye.
Just a thought. Mr. Reagan and Mrs. Reagan planned every detail of this and had planned it for a long time. The one thing they couldn't have planned, but that turned out, is that their family, which was often had difficult estrangements over the years, in the last years of his life, and as we all saw today, was very much together, of good spirit. I thought the children particularly were quite lovely, and the things they had to say in their grace and in their humor and in their obvious love for their father. It's been a long road for the family to get to this point, but in the most important moment, they were there.
Yes, and the family itself attributes this to the disease, Alzheimer's. As awful as that was, it has a way of bringing life into perspective. And what seems so important, obviously, when you're faced with that kind of debilitating disease, time has run out. And they say this is when the children and their father found some peace with one another when that started. And certainly that was evident tonight. Very gracious children of Ronald Reagan. They seem to have learned a lot from him.
Candy, thank you very much. It was, I think for people who watched it, it was everything you wanted it to be, and wonderfully played out, if you will, quietly and with great dignity. Thank you for your work tonight, Candy Crowley in California. In the last 48 hours, we've seen this remarkable, and for Americans at least, unusual public image play out. In the time remaining with us, we'll stop and watch and listen again as some of these moments unfolded. We'll also look a little more at Mr. Reagan's life. He was a letter writer. He wrote hundreds of them, thousands of them, and we'll talk some about that as well. And we'll end it all tonight with a perfect marriage of a moment. Ray Charles, who died yesterday, and Ronald Reagan, whose funeral was today, together. This is Newsnight.
Do you have the right truck? The best-selling half-ton regular and extended cab is now available as a crew cab. It's got more standard horsepower, more torque, and more towing capacity than Ford or Dodge have
was everything you wanted it to be, and wonderfully played out, if you will, quietly and with great dignity. Thank you for your work tonight, Candy Crowley in California. In the last 48 hours, we've seen this remarkable, and for Americans at least, unusual public image play out. In the time remaining with us, we'll stop and watch and listen again as some of these moments unfolded. We'll also look a little more at Mr. Reagan's life. He was a letter writer. He wrote hundreds of them, thousands of them, and we'll talk some about that as well. And we'll end it all tonight with the perfect marriage of a moment. Ray Charles, who died yesterday, and Ronald Reagan, whose funeral was today, together. This is Newsnight from New York.
Do you have the right truck? The best-selling half-ton regular and extended cab is now available as a crew cab. It's got more standard horsepower, more torque, and more towing capacity than Ford or Dodge half-ton Cruise. Introducing the new Silverado half-ton Cruise. It's the right truck from Chevy.
It's been a year since I started doing acting. Back when I started, I was still living alone. Acting's changed that. I read the book, started reducing my carb intake, and along with that, it recommended exercise, so I took up power walking. I think that power walking to be a somewhat polarizing sport. I kept at it. If I hadn't been on Atkins, I never would have met Frank. That's why I always tell people, Atkins can help you get a dog.
What would you rather have, a car or a cleaner environment?
I can't imagine being without my car.
Of course, I'd rather have a clean environment, but I think that compromise is very hard to make where we are.
We see standing ovations. The records beat. We see her graduating at the head of her class. We see kids full of potential. We're inspired to create software that helps them reach it.
As vice president for 8 years, I learned more from Ronald Reagan than from anyone I encountered in all my years of public life.
George H.W. Bush will turn 80 this weekend, I believe. Americans first met Ronald Reagan at the movies, where he was larger than life moving across the screen. The week that honored his death was itself an exercise in motion, from takeoffs and landings on opposite coasts to parades of people paying respect, to riderless horse clip-clopping to the Capitol steps, a blur of action, really. So tonight, for a moment or two, we'll slow it down. Stop it, actually, and let still photographs do what they do best, with thanks to the photographers of the Associated Press, who captured them all.
This day to begin the preparation of our final respects. We thank you that this world is a better place because he was here.
Legacy that he left behind and set a path to the American future. It's something that's going to affect my life and everyone else's, so it's good to be a part of that.
This Capitol building is, for many, the greatest symbol of democracy and freedom in the world. It is the right place to honor a man who so faithfully defended our freedom and so successfully helped extend the blessings of liberty to millions of people around the world.
With faith in Jesus Christ, we receive the body of our brother Ronald for burial. Let us pray with confidence to God, the giver of life, that he will raise him to perfection in the company of the saints.
He is himself again, more himself than at any time on this earth. And as the last journey of this faithful pilgrim took him beyond the sunset, and as heaven's morning broke, I like to think, in the words of Bunyan, that all the trumpets sounded on the other side.
As his vice president for 8 years, I learned more from Ronald Reagan than from anyone I encountered in all my years of public life. I learned kindness. We all did. I also learned courage. The nation did.
It has been 10 years since he said his own farewell. Yet it is still very sad and hard to let him go. When the sun sets tonight off the coast of California, and we lay to rest our 40th president, a great American story will close.
He is home now. He is free. In his final letter to the American people, Dad wrote, "I now begin the journey that will lead me into the sunset of my life." And this evening, he has arrived.
The photographs of the Associated Press and the elegant work of Newsnight producer Amanda Townsend. Next on Newsnight, how Mrs. Reagan honored his life and his death at sunset in California. Around the world, this is Newsnight.
Everybody knows one. The guru of the game. That's why the Home Depot has the Skybox vending machine by Maytag to keep every fan's favorite drinks closer and colder than ever. We have one ready for you.
Just call, click, or visit your local Home Depot store today for your very own personal beverage vendor. Then start keeping up to 64 cans or 32 bottles of your favorite beverages close to the action. Customize the logo panels with your favorite team. Set the lockout to say hands off, buddy. Get a 2-minute warning before drinks run out. Order the Sky Base that holds snacks, too, because man does not live by carbonated beverages alone. The Home Depot has your Skybox vending machine by Maytag for only $4.99. Order right now and you'll get a free $50 Home Depot gift card by mail-in rebate.
So call, click, or visit your local Home Depot store today. We have one ready for you. The Home Depot. You can do it. We can help.
The perfect gift for a grad who's made the grade? A Dell PC. Give your grad a PC that was rated A+ for service and reliability. Like this Dimension desktop with the power and performance of an Intel Pentium 4 processor. It's just $4.99 after mail-in rebate. Plus it's free 2-day shipping and a free CD burner upgrade. Notebooks start at $7.99. But hurry, these offers end June 16th. And they're only a click or call away. Easy as Dell. Dell PCs use Intel Pentium 4 processors. Want your perfect PC with award-winning service and support? Then you want a Dell. Call or go online now and get this Dimension desktop with an Intel Pentium 4 processor and 3 years at-home service with a $6.99 at mail-in rebate. This system also includes an all-in-one printer, plus get free 2-day shipping. For rock-solid 24/7 service and support, you're getting a Dell. This offer ends June 16th, and it's only a click or call away. Easy as Dell. Dell PCs use Intel Pentium 4 processors.
For Ronald Reagan's family, today began with high pageantry and ended on a California hilltop where days ago nearly 100,000 people had come to pay their respects. There were no crowds today, just invited guests. President Reagan had come home for the last time, and it was time for the private goodbyes.
We have come from sea to shining sea, to this soil which he loved so much, and where his body will remain. He sent me a letter about marriage, and how important it was to be faithful to the woman you love. With a P.S., you'll never get in trouble if you say I love you at least once a day. And I'm sure he told Nancy every day, I love you.
At his last moment, when he opened his eyes that had not opened for many, many days, and looked at my mother, he showed us that neither disease nor death can conquer love.
Those of us who knew him well will have no trouble imagining his paradise. Golden fields will spread beneath the blue dome of a western sky. Live oaks will shadow the rolling hillsides. And someplace, flowing from years long past, a river will wind towards the sea. Across those fields he will ride a gray mare he calls Nancy D. They will sail over jumps he has built with his own hands. He will let the river carry him over the shining stones. He will rest in the shade of the trees. Our cares are no longer his. We meet him now only in memory, but we will join him soon enough, all of us, when we are home, when we are free.
Honey! Hey! Look! Honey! Hey! Look! Honey! Hey! Look!
The California chapter of today's story, Mrs. Reagan, who is 82, perhaps 83, obviously showing the strain of a long and difficult week, a week she planned meticulously down to the very last note of the very last song. When we come back, we'll talk history and the president, the 40th president. A quick break here. First, from New York, this is the
You have headquarters in Seattle. Procurement in Denver. R&D in Dallas. And marketing in Miami. We can design, deliver, and manage your communications for all of them across platforms across America. Consider the dots connected. SBC.
You'd expect electricity to have aerodynamic lines. But Lexus engineers went a step further. Dimpled panels were used on the undercarriage to reduce noise and lower wind resistance. So it's aerodynamic from every angle. The great ones elevate their performance. On the biggest stages, with the highest stakes, they're able to summon something extra, and by sheer will, produce wonders. As a global energy leader, expect big things from ConocoPhillips, and watch our performance elevate.
Kevin Starr has written 6 volumes on the life and times and spirit is considerable in the state of California. They'd be somewhat slimmer, we imagine, had Ronald Reagan settled in Chicago instead. For years, Elizabeth Drew wrote the letter from Washington for the New Yorker magazine. With Mr. Reagan in the White House, she never lacked for material. And historian Mary Serrati teaches international relations at the University of Cambridge, where she is a fellow at St. John's College. She's also a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. And they all join us now, and we are pleased to have them all with us. I don't think this is a night for especially hard or tricky questions. Let's talk a little sense of history. FDR said of great presidents that they are leaders of